Rage in the Cage OKC News. We are hanging out at the Weight Room in North Oklahoma City, sponsor for all things Rage in the Cage. Rage in the Cage 66 is coming up June 14th at the Oklahoma City Farmers Market. And right now I have our co-main event fighter, who's a pro fighter, J Nichols, with us. And you just reminded me, this is not the first time that you and I have chatted. You had your very first amateur fight for Rage in the Cage. So walk me through that fight and how you felt that first time, and you've obviously come a long way since then. So.
Yeah, it's been 3 years. It's been a while, but yeah, I was thinking about it on the drive up here, and it was June 23rd of 2016, and yeah, the fight was at lightweight, which was 155, and originally we didn't want to go down to 155 yet. We were going to work our way down there, but my opponent at welterweight dropped out, and then the guy that I did fight, I think his name was Sean McVeigh or Brandon McVeigh. And he was really adamant about, no, it has to be at 155, it has to be at 155. So I did my best to make it down there. I think I weighed in at 157, and he came in at like 163. So just like, okay, like so adamant about being 155, and then he didn't even make it, But as being amateurs, it's not too big of a deal. So as long as you're within 10 pounds, so went ahead and fought him anyway. And man, yeah, really nervous, but also like grateful at the same time that I had the opportunity to do that. Because I haven't always been the person like with the best gifts or the abilities, but I've had heart and drive. And it's pretty much what got me through most of my career up until this point. But yeah, that fight, I finished it in the second round. He tapped out via body strikes, and then you interviewed me. And actually, like, I was probably so nervous I don't even remember what we talked about or said. But it was a cool opportunity. It's cool to be a pro and be back. A little sad because I was hoping to be the main event, but Ken turned down the fight. But I mean, either way, it's cool to be back as when I was the first night of the fight, and now I am the second to last of the night. So
it's always amazing to see fighters' career go full circle, and so many fighters have got their start at Rage in the Cage and gone on, to get their pro careers at Rage in the Cage, and then obviously on UFC. And there's several nights when, and actually at Farmers Market, this has happened quite often. The matchmaker, somebody will come up to me and say, "Oh, UFC fighter who, somebody is in the audience," and then I get to interview them. So,
right.
Many times I wasn't there for their amateur career because, of course, a lot of these fighters have been fighting for a long time. But it's really neat to see you guys and your career grow. So, and speaking of your career, I mean, obviously you've got major talent. You've 7-0 as an amateur, and then 4-2-1 as a pro. So this is going to be, I think if I remember correctly, if I'm adding correctly, this is going to be your 14th fight.
Yeah.
And out of 14 fights, you've only experienced 2 losses. So if I'm remembering correctly, one of those losses was on a legacy card. No.
Oh yes, it was.
It was, and then your last one was fighting Braden Smith. Okay, and that was a 5th round submission loss, correct? So you guys went 5 full rounds, and then in that 5th round, you got the victory.
He did.
So it's easy to go through those victories and really talk about those, but what do you think you've learned most about those losses?
About the losses, well, the first one, I was too comfortable in the position that we were in, which is pretty much like the wrestler's like starting position, the down position. I was too comfortable being there, and with my first loss, and I got caught in something, and I'm not a prideful guy, or I try not to be, and instead of going out, I tapped out because I knew he had me, and there was no way out of it. But I mean, from there, I just stepped it up as far as like the conditioning that I did on my own outside of the gym, and really just kind of almost revitalized me, like made me feel like I wasn't invincible, which is a good thing. And I'm glad I kind of experienced that early in my pro career, so I could get that out of the way and not have the weight of that undefeated record on me, And then the one with Braden Smith, man, that was just fun because he was on the same card as me as an amateur. Like, he was a pro, but I was my first fight at the Farmers Market. I remember seeing him on there and just fighting out of Oklahoma and on the same cards and stuff. Kind of grew respect for him. But man, that'd be a pretty good opponent. And making 155 is kind of hard for me. So I was like, well, let's try 170. My coach said, hey, let's do it, and did it. And I was just of everything in that fight, I'm mostly just proud of just like I never gave up. I was aggressive the whole time, and Braden will even tell you because I'll cross train with him these last few weeks. and he's given me some good pointers and told me good things that I did, and yeah, so I was just excited about being able to go out there and show people my grit and my determination and my heart, so that's what I got from my losses so far, and I have a draw with Aaron McKenzie, and that too was just one that I was glad I was able to go all 3 rounds for the 5 minutes, and it was a very back and forth fight. There was a lot of transitions on the ground. And I know sometimes it's kind of boring for the people who don't train or don't know like positions and stuff like that, but I feel like I made a lot of new fans with that fight and with Braden's fight, so very proud of those performances that I put on.
Well, and you said it, you've cross-trained with Braden even since then, and that's what I love about this sport is you can take a loss to somebody, but that just gives you a whole new respect for that person for the most part. I know that there's times when that's not the case, but I love to hear those kind of stories where you have an opponent that you've looked up to for a long time, you guys fight, and then of course you're friends again and you guys are training together. So I think that's what the sport is all about, especially here on the local level. I hear a lot of times about fighters not wanting to take the fight because they knew somebody or they respect somebody, or we've cross-trained once before. But I think on the local level, sometimes if you want to fight the best of the best, sometimes you have to fight somebody that you know or you respect.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah, that's why I was grateful for that opportunity. I had more to gain than Braden did, but I was appreciative of taking the fight. Like I said, I feel like I made a lot more new fans and got a lot of respect from other fighters out there who may have thought for whatever reason, that I didn't have the grit and the grind that I have. So.
Well, and when I'm thinking about some of your fights, it seems like the majority of them are submission victories out of your fights. So obviously your ground game is pretty impeccable. Tell me a little bit about your stand-up training and where you're training now.
Well, my stand-up training, actually, I started stand-up training because I kept having a recurring nightmare when my wife and I first got married of her getting taken from me. And I would fight the guys as hard as I could, and they would just walk through my punches and all that. So I actually started training karate and teaching jiu-jitsu, and I got my black belt in taekwondo. And then from there, we had an MMA fun night every night of the week. And the whole time I've been training martial arts, my wife and I are I'm never gonna do MMA. I'm not gonna get paid to get punched in the face. And my coach was talking to me about it, and I was like, man, I want to try it. And he said, well, ask your family, I'll ask mine. It takes a lot of time and effort on both parts, and a lot of time for my families. And I said, okay. Went home, my wife was on her phone. I was like, hey babe, can I kind of want to start fighting? Can I start training? And she's like, yeah, sure. Wait a second. So I was about to ask her again. I was like, nope, going with the first answer. I was like, coach, she said I'm in. I can do it. So it was one of those things my coach said, my previous coach, Edgar, he said that, you'd rather say that you tried it once, you didn't like it, rather than later on so you wish you would have. And so now it's turned into a career, and it's actually kind of turned into a ministry for me as well. So it's been a blessing for sure, just the whole MMA career of mine.
Well, and I know a lot of times fighters say that they're going to go in there, I just want to get this one fight, I just want to say that I've done it once. Mm-hmm. And they do it once and they're hooked.
Yeah.
And so that's something I notice a lot of times. But then also I'm really impressed. I want to hear a lot more about your ministry, because when I first started Rage in the Cage, I don't know if you know this, but I started it as a ministry, and we actually had a pastor on staff, Pastor Ken Purbo, and previous to each event he would go in the back with the fighters and offer prayer if any fighter wanted specific prayer. It didn't have to be about the fight itself, but just anything in their life. And then we did a weekly radio program through MMA Madhouse, where Pastor Ken Purbo did a couple-minute segment on there, and it was always related to fighting. He would bring the scriptures and relate it back to fighting. And he worked at Tinker as well as being a full-time pastor, so eventually after a couple of years he had to step down from that position. But I do find in the MMA industry, and I'm sure this is in every industry, there is a lot of hurting people, and a lot of fighters get into this, especially as an amateur, not so much as a pro, but as an amateur, because they're kind of lost in their lives. So how do you feel you've been able to use your life as a ministry and your fighting career as a ministry?
Right. Mostly for mine, like I said, it's just, I've never had the skills. It wasn't oh man, that kid is really skilled. It's oh, that kid has a lot of heart and a lot of drive. you know, and you know, I didn't come to Christ until I was later in life, until I was a junior in high school. You know, so it's just been cool to be able to grow that way. And then, you know, there's been times where like I've done Bible studies with guys on the team and stuff like that, you know, because I mean, ultimately that's my goal, is to just like show people out there, you know, like that, like, I mean, you see like those guys who somewhat, they claim to be Christians, and I'm not speaking any evil on them or anything, but you know, like they say they're a Christian, but then their actions and what they say don't line up, you know. And so many times there's been people where that's happened, so it's they've been scarred by somebody like that, so they're like, oh, okay, all Christians are like that. And I just kind of want to go out there and show people like we're not all like that, you know, like we're not perfect by any means. I'm not perfect by any means, but I am forgiven, and I try to show that to other people too, you know. It's been, yeah, just a huge blessing, and I tried to make things of it, and just kind of really just, instead of worrying about it and all that, you know, just like the scriptures say, you know, there's no need for me to worry, right? Does a bird worry about when it's going to get its food? No, it doesn't. You know, the God that is the God of the universe, you know, he loves me, and I don't need to worry about those kind of things. And I always worried about what people thought of me as a kid, and didn't grow up in the best situations, you know, but I've been able to minister to people in that kind of a way, to let them know, like, hey, you know, like, people just assume you're a Christian, they just assume you have everything together and everything's perfect, when it's actually the opposite, you know. So, but it's been, like I said before, just a blessing to be able to do that and share that with people, because like I said, also coming to Christ, you know, I've become more confident, you know, and as a kid, you know, I wasn't very confident, I was a very shy kid, and now I'm kind of growing into my person who just God called me to be, and who I strive to be every day.
So much meaning, between everything that you said, and I can feel it in your voice and just how you're talking, that, I mean, this is just all true to your heart. And, you know, you said something that really strikes me, because I've heard this many times before. So many people that choose, you know, to not learn about the Lord and not go to church and not want to be affiliated with that, is because they've had kind of a bad taste in their mouth, where somebody has failed them before. And I always say this, because I know how imperfect I am. And I know all the times that I look back on a conversation or a moment and think, oh, I could have done that so differently. But, you know, as Christians, we are not infallible. I mean, we are, many times we look back on our moments and think and we beat ourselves up over it. I know I do.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, I could have done that so differently. And so, just as other people are looking at us with their, you know, thinking that we're perfect and that we should act a certain way, I hope that people are able to draw near to us, because they know that we don't have it all together as well.
Yeah.
But the same token, when we don't have it all together, we have somebody to go to ask for forgiveness. And so, believe me, I have to do that often.
Every day we got that to ourselves, for sure.
Every single day. So, all right. Well, we will just move on a little bit in your career. I appreciate you sharing that part of yourself, because it's a very important part of all of us.
That's why I'm dressed like this. I came straight from church. So.
I know, impressive. I love that. And so, we'll get back to your career a little bit. I mean, obviously, you've had great success so far. But, you know, you've said this a couple of times I've heard in the interview, that you really feel like you never had the skills. It was more your heart and determination that got you where it was. And, of course, I find that so hard to believe, because looking at your record, you know, you've only got 2 losses out of those 13 fights up until this is your 14th fight. So what was your background in mixed martial arts? Do you have like a wrestling background or boxing? Or?
Yeah, wrestling. I actually wrestled in Stillwater. I wrestled in middle school for a long time, and then when I moved from Texas, Oklahoma, and tried out for the football team, because I just did all sports, and I was doing better than some of the guys who started, and it was frustrating to me, because I was still just getting put on a JV team, and I was like, well, you know what? I know in wrestling, if I beat the guy who's supposed to be in that starting position, I'll get that position no matter what, no matter how long he's been with the coach. So I just went back to wrestling, and and then after that, you know, didn't go anywhere for college to wrestle, and found jiu-jitsu, and that kind of kept my competitive fire going, and you know, just grew from there.
All right. Now, before we wrap it up, of course, I want to do all your shout-outs and stuff, but one last question. It's always the big question. Where do you want this to take you? I mean, are you looking big stage like, you know, most fighters I interview? Of course, they're wanting to go to the UFC. Is that kind of your aspiration in all of this?
Yeah, of course. That's like you said. It's everybody's aspiration, but for me, it's not just that. You know, it's to be able to show people the journey. You know what I mean? Like I'm a small town kid that you know that no one really knew much about. You know, but slowly as I've been working behind the shadows, you know. In the dark, you know, it's been brought to light in all my fights, and I've been able to show people, you know, that what I do in the dark and what you don't see, you know, it's getting brought to light. And, yeah, it's just something that I want people to know is like, no matter where you come from, you know, you can make something of yourself as long as you give yourself 100% and truly give it all you have.
Awesome. You've been such an inspiration, I know, to me talking today, and I'm sure so many other people out there. So I hope a lot of fans get this interview of you, and we can all get something out of that. You guys, don't miss it. June 14th at the Oklahoma City Farmers Public Market, and I'm going to give you the stage one more time to do your shout outs to anybody or any sponsors, and then we'll wrap it up.
Perfect. Shout out to all my teammates at OMA, Coach Seth, my head instructor. Let's see, there's so many people. Misha, my manager, all the people I've cross-trained with. So Braden, actually Manny Murrow, I've cross-trained with him. All those guys. Shout out to my wife and my daughter for letting me be able to do this and have this lifestyle. Shout out to my church, Shimon Worship Center. Hopefully put you guys on the map. We're in small town America, or Perkins. So shout out to you guys, and shout out to Back to Wellness, my chiropractor, and shout out to One Life Nutrition in Stillwater for helping me with my nutritional needs.
All right, AJ Nichols, thank you so much for being here today. You guys, make sure you get some tickets to this fire card, Rage in the Cage 66, going down June 14th at the Oklahoma City Farmers Public Market. We got 5 title fights on this card. I think we're at 14 fights. You can get tickets from AJ Nichols, any other fighter on the card, or of course at stubware.com, and we will see you then.